Hiya, Laurie here, welcome back. So today I thought we would do something a little bit different, and I thought I would kind of give you guys some tips and tricks that I've learned while wax sealing. Obviously I'm not an expert, but I have learned a few tricks whilst playing, and I thought I would share them with you guys. So obviously wax seals, or the wax, comes in different forms. You can get like these little guys, which is probably the most common way people use them, and you do need a spoon to use those guys. You can use a teaspoon or a tablespoon. You don't actually need to have like this contraption. As long as you've got a candle and a spoon, you're good to go. The other way is a glue gun, which I know is becoming quite popular. So you can get the glue gun sticks, and these do come in different sizes, so definitely check the size before you buy them. So these are the 7mm ones, but they do come thicker, and I'm just going to actually grab a thicker one because knowing me, I always forget something. So these are the sort of thicker ones, and so you can see the difference in size with those. Usually the thicker ones are also longer. So these are 10 or 11mm. So obviously depending on the glue gun that you have, because a normal glue gun will work for these, but for a normal glue gun you're probably going to want to use the 7mm ones, but you can also buy a wax seal glue gun, but usually they will be in the larger 11 or 10mm size. So definitely check the size before you buy, because I have done that many times where I've bought the wrong size, which is why I now have two. So, and about 5 different glue guns because I've bought the wrong one so many times. Then there's the traditional shape, which is like this, and it usually has a little wick on the end, but not always. Sometimes it's just in the shape, and you would hold a flame underneath it and then drip it. Or what I like to do is I like to cut them down to size and then put them in my spoon. So the ones that I prefer using when I'm using a spoon is these guys here. I do have some of my own kind of scattered throughout in those, so just ignore those. But the ones that I prefer to use if I'm using my spoon is these guys. But obviously there's plenty of different ways that you can do it, and I'm actually going to show you a trick that you can try without even using wax seals or even a metal stamp. If you want to try it today and you have a couple of little items, I will show you how to do that later on. But I'm going to just show you how to kind of try and get a good circle. So one thing that I have learned is you do not need a handle for every head. So you only need 1 or 2 handles depending on how many heads you have or how many you frequently use. For instance, I have a few sitting up here. I'll just grab that. I always have handles on them because these are the ones that I reach for regularly. So these just sit out on my shelf and they always have a handle on them, and they're like for like Happy Meal or pen pal letters, or like this one says thank you, and then this one is my shop name. So they two are the ones that I use the most frequently. And then if you know me at all, you know I'm cameo daft, and so these have got a few cameos on them. So these are like my favourite kind of go-to ones, but I have some favourites in the drawer as well, and then I have some more in a box, but I just grabbed the drawer for quickness and easy accessibility. So again, they come in different sizes as well. So you can get these ones here, which, see if you can actually see that, are obviously slightly smaller. So normally your wax seal will be about 1 inch. So if I just hold that there, so it's about 1 inch, if you can see. Whereas this one is about 1/2 inch. And you can get them smaller than that as well. And then you can get them bigger, which is like 1 inch, just over 1 inch basically. This one's slightly bigger. And then you can get them in different shapes. So we can get them oval, you can get them square, you can get them star shaped. I've even seen milk carton shaped ones now, so you can pretty much get them in all shapes and sizes. So the first thing you definitely want to know is how many of your wax little droplets you want to use for your wax seal, because getting the right amount definitely helps in your circumference when you want your full circle. So I've found for just a regular size 1 inch, 4 of these little guys is plenty. It's harder to judge with these ones because you're not really judging amounts, you're just kind of judging it as it goes down onto your surface. But I've found that 4 of these is the right amount for just a regular old sized wax seal. For these ones, I would say 3, and then you get even smaller ones which are about this size. So if I can kind of hold those together, you can just see, I'm actually going to have to grab them, I know it. Okay, so that's what I get for being lazy. But you can get these ones which are obviously a lot smaller. If I can grab my wee doohickey again, you can see that these are smaller still. So this was 1/2 inch. This one is probably about 1/4 inch. Yeah. So they come in all different sizes. So like for this one, I would say 3 of these would give you a good size. 2, if you're going to be doing a lot, you can maybe get by with popping 1 in every so often, because usually you're left with a little bit of residue in your spoon. For like your big square ones, let me see if I can find, I've only got one big square one, so I'm going to see if I can nab it. Right at the back. And this is what I mean by you don't need handles for all of them. I started out getting handles for all of them, and as you can see, it becomes quite a pain in the neck to store them all. And then you end up throwing them about. Jeez, Laurie, where did that even go? Sorry about that. You can also get the little small ones for your hand. I'm giving in with that one. It doesn't want to be held today. But yeah, I have a lot of handles that are just kind of sitting around because they're harder to store attached. And like I said, you can get a lot of the small ones where you still screw them on. So definitely check the size before you buy even the heads, because they do come in different sizes. So if you were to see that online, you might think it's a normal 1 inch sized wax seal when it's only a 1/4 inch. So make sure you check the sizes. But this is the big square one I was talking about. So it is still only 1 inch, even though it looks a lot bigger. So I've probably left that a little too long. That's another thing. You want to let it melt completely, but you don't want to pour it down the instant it melts, because then it's still going to be quite thick and gloopy, and it's not going to be as runny as you would want it to be. So you want to give it a minute so that it's nice and watery, but not too watery, because then it's going to be too thin, kind of a consistency, and your wax seal will probably go right through it. I'm trying to find a circle one, but oh well. So one way that I've found is find the edge and then press it down slowly. So you're going in at an angle rather than just pushing it down. You're going to go to the edge and put one side down and then slowly roll it down so that you are moving the wax into your circle. So I'll show you that again because I kind of rushed that one. So the reason I put the wax paper down is so that I can just peel off and I don't need to worry about it sticking to the surface. So as you can see, that's not perfect, but it is pretty close to a full, you've got a pool of wax all the way around it. But I'm going to grab my little doodad. So I usually just keep one handle loose in here so that I can grab it when I want to. You can buy these, say you find a colour in these that you can't find in these, you can buy them, and the same goes for these, and cut them down. I've done that as well. The only thing is I will say is these are kind of thicker consistency, so they're more like glue than these are. These are more like wax, whereas these are more of a thick consistency. So I find that they don't melt as nicely in the spoon as they do in the gun, if that makes any sense at all. So like I said, make sure you've got the right amount of wax. That definitely helps. If you put too little in, you can always like chop it up, pop it back in and add a little bit more. The great thing about these is that if you mess up, you can just cut it down to fit back in your spoon and start again. So I'm going to use this one. This is one of my new ones that I want to use. And for the square, I would still use 4. I would just maybe let it melt a little bit longer, and I would sort of, I'll show you actually. So that's that melted, but I'm going to give it another couple of seconds so that it still melts a little bit more. I know that sounds stupid because it's already melted, but it's going to make it runnier, basically, and make it easier for me to work with, and make it so that I don't have to be as fast to get my wax seal on this before it dries and sets. It gives you a little bit more wiggle room, basically. So for a square one, I would try and basically use my wax to make a square. So I would really spread it out, and then I'm looking at it as if it needs to be the right way around, and then I would press it in. So as you can see, because I've made that shape already, I could literally just pop that down and it's good to go. Whereas if I'd made a circle, it would have been a bit more footery to try and get the square shape. And obviously you can cut around that if you want it perfectly square. It's very unlikely you're going to get an actual square shape because liquid just doesn't pull that way. So that's pretty much the shape you're wanting. You're wanting the circle with your square inside it, or you can then cut out your square to get the perfect square. So that's that set now. I'm just going to easily peel it off, and we have our square. And then this is melted now, so I'm just going to let it fall into a circle, basically. I'm not going to faff about with it. I'm just going to let it do its thing. And then I'm basically going to bring this in at an angle. So I'm going to leave a little ridge and then bring it in, and then I'm slowly pressing it down. And as you can see, as I press that down, the wax shooted out. And I don't know if I've got the best angle. I'll try at a different angle as well. But basically that's going to create your circle. So I did that a couple of times because I kind of messed up on this one because I was too busy looking at the camera rather than at the thing, and I misjudged the edge. And then I did it again and forgot to hit record. So, whoops. So I did it again. So this is take 3. And I'm just going to peel it off. So hopefully you've got a good angle on that one. So another quick tip is something that I just recently learned. If you want to add a little bit of sheen to this and you don't have like rub-on metallics or anything, highlighter. So this is just a wee cheapy highlighter, and so I'm just going to take my finger and brush it over the one I just did. And obviously with this being white, it's not going to add any colour, but definitely, I don't even know if you can see that, but if I hold it up in comparison, it definitely adds a little bit of sheen. So this is the one I rubbed it on, and this is just a normal one. So you can very, very subtly in the camera see the change in the colour. So this one looks slightly yellower, but it definitely adds a nice little sheen. And obviously if that was like a red or something like that, it would look quite gold. So I've cleaned my spoon, that's another tip. clean your spoon. Also, if you're not using one of these, obviously I know that it's very tempting to put this straight over the flame and have the flame licking the bottom of the spoon, because obviously the closer it is to the heat, the faster it's going to melt. However, that is the result of having it on the actual flame. You will burn up your spoon. Whereas if you have it a good distance away, which if you're using one of these, it will always not touch the flame. It is designed to keep it above the flame. So try to contain yourself and just be patient and keep it above the flame and not touching the flame. So my little trick is, if you don't have any kind of wax seal at all, but you do have a glue gun. So unfortunately that is the one necessity in this situation. You do need a glue gun, or at least glue sticks, like the glue sticks that you would use for your glue gun. So I've trimmed them down, and I'm going to pop in 3 of these guys. And then I went and grabbed some crayons, just regular ass crayons. So these are like your chunky ones from, I think it was the pound shop. I cannot remember. It might have been just round the corner. I'm going to grab a green one, and that is way too thick. So I'm going to see if I can grab something and trim that down. So these are just regular crayons, and I've just chopped them up and removed the paper. And I'm going to use that as a wax seal. As you can see, I was practicing. I was testing the theory out. So I'd done a bunch to save my time. But it does work. But you definitely need more glue to the ratio of your crayon. The crayon's just to add the colour. You can definitely do this and just leave it so that you have clear wax seals. And then you can use them to obviously press flowers. We might do that actually, because that sounds fun. But the other thing is, you're going to need some kind of stirring thing that you don't mind getting ruined, because obviously you can't really use this for anything else once you've got wax all over it. So this is just a wooden chopstick. So once this is melted, I'm going to give it a stir so that I can move the colour all throughout that glue. Another thing is, you can add glitter, sequences, things like that. If you don't have crayons but you have the glue and you want to try it, you can add a bunch of different stuff and it will work great. So now that that's melted, you can see obviously that that's not going to mix itself. You are going to have to mix it. And that's when you'll know whether or not you need more glue or not. So if it's too watery by the time you finish mixing, it might just need to melt a little bit longer, but you might need more glue. So you couldn't just go ahead and use a crayon, because it would just be like water, and it would definitely, if you put it on a project, it would ruin the project. And if you put it onto wax seal, like wax paper, it would just crack and crumble as you pulled your wax seal off, like the actual stamp. So as you can see, as I'm mixing that, it's getting to the same sort of consistency as the melted wax. So I'm quite happy with that. So I'm just going to pop that down on my paper. I'm going to grab a wax seal that I haven't actually used yet. So I'll use this one, actually. I'll use one of these. So, and again, I'm just popping it right down because it's a circle one I'm using. So as you can see, that's gave me a lot of wax. So a little bit more than what I would have had from if I was to use the 4 of those. And again, I'm going to pop it down and roll it. So it's the exact same technique that I used for the other ones. So I'm going to give that a clean. So I just use baby wipes and I kind of just bundle it up and then twist it. And I'm trying to be careful, obviously, not to touch the metal, because that will be hot, like scalding hot. And if after I've kind of got through the wipe, I realise that there's still a bunch on there. I will pop it back on to melt for a couple of seconds. And then I will go back in and I will also clean up any like spillages that are around this. So I've just popped 4 bits of that glue in there. And there is our wax seal, all nice and dry, or set. Is the right terminology for that? And I'm going to grab my highlighter again. Like I said, this is just a wee cheapo one. I don't even think it has a brand name. I will tell you actually. Lily? I don't know. I got it off AliExpress. I like the case. So let's see if that works and shows up better, rather. So obviously, depending on the colour of your highlighter, if you've got like one of those rainbow ones, that's better to see, or easier to see rather. It might come up a different colour, obviously depending on the colour of your highlighter. But I popped those in and I've just grabbed some dried flowers and my blank stamp. So it doesn't have anything on it at all. Apparently you can use a glue stick. Now I haven't tried this one yet. Should we try it? I think we should. So this one is just, it doesn't have any like ridges at the top. So it's just plain plastic. It's not got any decoration at all near the top that's going to catch on the wax or anything. So it might work. Like I said, you could sprinkle glitter in this as well. That would be really pretty. I don't have any glitter at the moment. I don't know where it is. I do have it. It's just not here. It's on holiday. So I'm going to just leave it as it is and I'm going to pick out a flower. I don't know why I do that. Random accents at random moments. So I think that I'm going to take this one, if I can get a hold of it, because it's the darkest colour, so it should be the easiest for you guys to see. So as you can see, it's just melted, so it's still quite stodgy, and you don't want it to be that stodgy. And this is what I mean by these ones as well. This is the same consistency that these will be when you melt them this way. They're not going to completely get all liquidy the way these will, just the same as this won't either. But I do want it slightly more liquidy than what it is. The crayon definitely helps with that, helping it get more runny and stuff. So here goes. So it's going to take me a little bit longer to kind of pour it out because it is more stodgy. I don't think I had enough, to be honest. Come on. I might scoop some out. It's messy. So again, I'm going to do my little trick where I'm going to push. I think this should be dry. I'm going to start peeling it off. Oh, please peel off. Nah, it's just glued to the lid. So, dang it, I've just wasted a flower. Right, don't try that at home. That does not work. And I think that this may be my glue lid for the rest of my life because that ain't coming off. So I'm going to do the same thing that I would do if this was wax, and I'm just going to break it up and I will melt it again in the next one. So I've already got some melting away there, and I'm just going to add a little bit of blue to it. So the other trick that I wanted to show you is if, like I said, you don't have anything at all related to wax seals and you want to give this a bash today and you do have glue or you have a way of accessing it a lot easier than you would have accessing any of this stuff, you can use a stamp, just a wooden stamp. I wouldn't recommend acrylic stamps. I've not tried that and I don't recommend trying it. But But a wooden stamp, as long as it's not got too much detail, and by that I mean like something like this, where there's like a little leaves and then there's a stem, so that would, the wax would get trapped in like these little bits here, and it would do the exact same thing that this just did. If you were to try that. Something like this, where it's like little tiny details that they're not really going to get caught in so much, or something like this. So like I said, this is something, if you want to try it, I wouldn't recommend doing it indefinitely. I think it would definitely ruin your stamp. Or if you have like a friend who their favourite colour, their favourite flower is a rose, and you only have a rose wooden stamp, you could maybe do that as like, or a special occasion or something. But as, like I said, I wouldn't recommend doing it, like just buying wooden stamps and doing it. It doesn't always work. It really does depend on the stamp. I'm going to give this a little stir. And another thing you will need is some kind of lotion. So baby oil, cooking oil. I'm using a bit of baby lotion. And you're going to rub that on your stamp before you stamp it down. So that's probably what I should have done with this. In hindsight, I should have done that before I stamped it down. And that's going to stop the glue, because obviously this is glue. It's going to stop it from actually gluing itself to your stamp. So that should be ready to go. I might actually add another bit of glue, just a small one, if I can get hold of one, just because it seems really runny. So I'm just going to use this one, and I've already, because I was testing this out, so I've got some, it's just this stuff here, Johnson's Bedtime Baby Lotion, but it really doesn't matter. You could even take some like Vaseline or something like that, or lip balm, and rub it on it. Just something that's going to create that sleek, oily surface. And you don't want too much on. You just want enough that it's going to get in all the little nooks and crannies, and it's going to give it a nice little coating, like I said, and that's going to stop it from gluing your seal, like the wax seal, to your stamp. And again, I would recommend doing this on parchment paper and testing it out before you put it onto a project, because like I said, it doesn't always work for every kind of stamp. This was something I saw someone do, and I was like, I'll give that a try. But I did try quite a few stamps, and it didn't work with the majority of them. So it is going to take a little bit of kind of practice and playing. So that's way too much wax. I stamp that in, and then I think I'm going to grab another seal. Okay, so I just used up the rest of the wax. I can't honestly remember what I just said because I had to go get my son from nursery, and that's been sitting there way too long. Ah, dang it. But as you can see, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But I think if I had left that for as long as I did, it probably would have worked. So I'm going to try it again. I might actually try this on an actual piece of paper rather than a wax. See, there's what I used the excess for. I've got a little piece of paper left over from collaging. So this needs a little bit more of this. So I'm just putting some more of that lotion on it. I would suggest kind of like dabbing this wax seal once you lift this off, just so that you get the excess, because there should still be some excess. But we will try it again. That just melted, so I'm going to give it another couple of seconds. But you can even use a coin if you don't want to use your stamps. You could put a little bit of blue tack on the back of a coin and stick it to something like a glue stick or something, and then press that into your wax seal, or even just glue it to something. Obviously, if you're just using like a penny or something like that, that would work too. Right. Take two. Okay, let's see how this worked. Yay! Okay, so it works a lot better if it's on an actual piece of paper rather than a surface that it'll come off of. So yeah, if you want to try it and you have some wooden stamps about, they don't have to be circular shaped. I did this one earlier using this one, so I can do that again in a second. But what I want to do now is I've got some just glue melting here, and I want to do the flower one because I want to. I had that song in a while. So I'm going to use my stamp for this one, but I think it would work if you were to put something like this stuff, like the lotion. I think if you were to put that on top of your glue lid first, I think that would work better. So what colour should we use for our birdie? So I'm going to put in 4 because it's a bigger stamp. Like obviously this is a lot bigger. Where did I put it? Than this one. So I've put 4 glue bits in, which isn't really a measurement because they're all different sizes. So I've done green, blue, so I think I'll do a purple one. So I'm just going to break off the bottom of that purple crayon, and I'm just going to let that melt for a second before I put it in. Definitely give that a go. And like I said, it's something that you can do even if you don't have like all the stuff that you need to do wax sealing. If you want to kind of just give it a bash and see if you like it, it's a great way to do that. I certainly wouldn't recommend using these indefinitely. I would definitely say to invest in some wax seals. You only need one handle, really. And then you can buy the heads, especially on AliExpress. You can buy them for relatively cheap. I think that was like £4 for that one. So if you're not buying it with the handle, they're a lot cheaper. And you can buy the handles separately as well. I bought this handle without any stamp attached to it, and it was only a few pounds as well. So if you're buying them individually on their own, like the handle and then the actual metal part separate, it kind of works out slightly cheaper. And you can get these ones where you don't need a handle because the handle's already built in, and you're actually getting 2 for 1 because you're getting this kind of stamp on the other side as well as your image stamp on the other side. The same goes for these. Obviously it's a bit more footy kind of because it's round, but you could still use that for what I'm doing here. I'm going to take this off and see how that looks. It's so pretty. It's a bit cloudy, but I think that's probably because I melted it twice. Yeah, I'm not strong enough for that. I was trying to break it in half again, but that's a no-go. I like how the blue one came out. That's a really pretty colour. Same with the green. It's a good like hack if you can't find a colour that you want and you've got like crayons lying around and you're doing like a certain spread in your journal, or you're doing a pen pal letter that's themed a certain colour. You can obviously use this hack, and it's obviously slightly cheaper, especially if you already have the glue sticks are a lot cheaper to buy than the wax is for the amount you get, I guess, and especially considering you can change the colour about, whereas you kind of have to commit to a colour when you're buying the wax seals, the wax rather, whereas if you're buying like a big bulk of the glue sticks and a pack of crayons, you've basically got like every colour you could possibly want. I don't know if you can get gold or silver crayons. I'm not sure about that. Probably can, but I don't want to say that you can and then it turns out you can't. So I'm not sure, but the odds are you probably can. They're just not as easy to come by as your regular crayons. And these are just the cheapest of the cheap crayons that I'm using. I got them out the pound shop or my corner shop. I honestly can't remember, but they're like a wee pound packet basically. So I'm going to pour this. Ah, bollocks. I meant to pour it onto that. Okay, so I'm going to grab that stamp and do that. And then I'm just going to put another glue in there and swap this round. Whoopsie daisy. To be fair, I think it was quite watery anyway. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. I'm going to give that a second to melt. So it's nice and melted now. I've just grabbed another piece of paper. It's just a little post-it. Just to do this one on instead of doing it on the same one. Just because I don't want them to accidentally kind of bleed into one another. It's a better consistency anyway. See, I knew I was doing all along. So, in she goes. And I haven't pushed that down as hard as I pushed this one down, because if you look at it, you can actually see the paper kind of through it. I've pushed that one down a little bit too hard. Oh no! I didn't put lotion on it. Dang nabbit, Laurie. Okay. So let's see how that did. Oh, it actually did okay. I was so worried there. So there we go. It's much more of an imprint, whereas these are sort of debossed. This is more embossed, if that makes sense. So it's far more going in than coming out. I hope that makes sense. So it works definitely a lot better if it's stuck down to a surface than if you're doing it this way where you can take it off. That was the other one I did, by the way. So yeah, if you're using stamps, definitely do it on a surface such as paper, and then you can very gently kind of ease it off that surface if you want to stick it on something else. Or even, don't do that by the way, because if you can see it's starting to peel there. So even like cut it off or use a craft knife to like cut around it. But it does work. But like I said, I definitely wouldn't do this to your stamps on the regular. It would probably ruin them. There is quite a few DIY wax seal stamps out there where it teaches you how to like make them out of like fast drying clay and stuff like that, but I thought I wouldn't go to that measure, so I wanted to kind of show you something where you can just kind of grab it and give it a go, and that way you can decide if you like it and if you want to invest in buying the rest of the stuff that goes with it, and just to give you another option for cheaper versions of wax basically. But I hope you liked this video and you learned at least one thing. If not, sorry. But thanks for hanging out with me, and I hope you're well and that you give this a go, and I'll see you all soon. Take care and God bless. Bye.